Larry, thank you for meeting with me today. As we discussed in our last meeting, I wanted to come back and share some ideas, some concepts and solutions that Abbott Diagnostics has been working on to really help elevate your lab performance to the next level. As you know, we've discussed this in the past, your lab, amongst others, have been really challenged with elevating your performance, dealing with both external and internal challenges such as staffing shortages, PAMA, consolidation, and at times it's been really challenging to be able to serve your providers and your doctors and ultimately your patients. And basically what we're looking at is you're being forced to increase your lab performance, right? And how have you been able to do this, or what have you been doing to try to do this? And some examples are some lean initiatives, some Six Sigma initiatives. And this is great. This is a great start. However, we found that it's just not enough. I've come across a recent study that indicated that it suggested that for every $1,000, just think about this, for every $1,000 that is spent on lean initiatives, only $1 is saved. That's disappointing. And what does that mean? That means that something needs to change. We need to really think about what we can do to really fight that, surpass that, to get to the next level. In essence, what it boils down to is you need to be able to take your data and convert it into action. Not just any action, but meaningful action. That sounds really simple, right? You have a ton of data. I know that, you know that. I see all of the metrics outside your door that you guys are tracking. However, as you can imagine, and I know you've expressed this to me, it's very overwhelming. So let's say this is you, frustrated, Larry, and you have data coming at you from every direction. You have data coming at you from your LIS, right? Your ER, your providers, and many other data points within your ecosystem. And that data is unorganized, fragmented, it's not cohesive, it's difficult to interpret. And I know that you've expressed challenges with this. Sometimes you are lucky enough you do have some structured data, but there's so much of it. How do you decipher and sift through all the data points that you're being bombarded with, right? So just imagine sometimes you have over hundreds of metrics that you need to look at and try to figure out what to do with that. So what do you do? What do you do when you're faced with that? Well, the most natural thing to do is to focus on what you're comfortable with. Really focusing on what you can visually see, visual cues. And unfortunately, this is a great start, but it's just not enough. You, in essence, have these blinders, right? That is not enabling you to look outside of your ecosystem, to see what your peers are doing, to learn from best practices. And it's not a lot. You in essence oftentimes recreate the wheel because you just don't know what's out there. And you're focusing on existing KPIs, which some may be fine and good, but there's maybe a lot of things out there that you're missing. And that brings me to the next point, which is you want to stay ahead of the curve. You want to stay ahead of the performance curve. Your lab is definitely looked at as one of the leaders in our district and as an example for many in our territory. You're definitely one of the pace setters. But unfortunately, that performance curve in this fast-paced environment, it shifts, and you don't want to be left behind that, right? So that's going to shift, and you're going to have to stay afloat and do things outside of the ordinary and really leverage your efficiencies to stay ahead of that. You don't want to be in this area. In a perfect situation, you would have the luxury to assess. So again, let's say this is you right here. You would have continuous improvement initiatives where you can assess, plan, and act, right? However, as we know, the lab is one of the most busiest areas, right, in the hospital, and you really don't have the time. You're in your own little box, in your own little world, and you don't have the time or luxury to reflect, to assess, to plan, and to be able to decipher that data into that meaningful action that we talked about before. So I'm here to ask you, what if there was a better way? What if there was a solution out there that would enable you to do this? You're interested, right? I could see that in your face. And what I wanted to talk to you about today was Abbott's LNIQ Business Intelligence Solution. We're so excited about this. What it in essence does is it takes all of this data, all of this stuff that you're being bombarded with, and it converts it into this scorecard. There's 6 different main focus areas that are on here that really cover 95% of your performance needs. That's just astounding, right? But what's even better is that you can share that with your C-suite. You could share that with folks at a glance. But if you needed to dig deeper into that data, you could. You can totally dig deeper and magnify that data 10 times, 100, 1,000 times, whatever you need for your needs, right? And get the most meaningful data that you need. Not only that, you have exposure to meta-analysis and benchmarking. So you'll have the visibility to see what your peers are doing. You won't have to recreate that wheel. You'll be able to look at what they're doing and leverage their learnings and look outside. Your blinders are going to be taken off and you will be more effective. And what does that mean for you? That's an exciting part because you get to get outside that box and you will be able to have that continuous improvement. That continuous improvement that I was talking about earlier, where you'll be able to assess effectively, plan, and act, and really leverage your lab's performance. You'll have that meaningful action and your performance will inevitably go up. Finally, I'd like to end with the fact that you're not alone in this. So that's what I'm here for, as your value expansion specialist and other partners like your ambassadors and your professional service executives. You have Abbott to collaborate with you, and so that you're not on this journey alone. You will be able to work with us. We will work with you and collaborate to help you navigate through this together. Is this something that you're interested in? That's what I thought. So Larry, would it be okay if next week I come back with my greater team so that we can show you some of these case studies and some examples of how we can impact your lab specifically? You would be interested. How about Thursday at 3 o'clock? Great. Well, I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much.